Recording in progress. Don't show me this again. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, just barely. 12:02 by my clock here at Wondrous Roots. Just say hello to you as you file in. Great to see you today. As usual, wonderful to have you with me. And I'm going to be talking about well, all the buzz today, right? And on the ads and everything for health. And even I'm just really kind of surprised, more conservative voices, like I'm a conservative politically. Any of you who know me know that. I have been all my life. I've always been a small federal government kind of person, separation of powers, constitutional kind of girl. So I'm very happy with the election results. But anyway, even things like Fox News, they bring on their medical specialists and they're talking about, oh, well, wait, obesity is such an epidemic in this country. So these drugs are good, the Ozempic and the things like that. And let's take another look at them. And then I saw something last weekend talking about how they help with addiction and they help with things like that. So these could be really great drugs for everybody to get on. And maybe the big goal here is to lower the price so everybody can get on them and be healthy. So obviously, the obesity epidemic and diabetes and whatnot are not due to a shortage of the Ozempic, a shortage of the drugs. But how do they work? And why do they help with certain things? And what can we do to maybe activate the same pathways, not as a substitute for other lifestyle and dietary factors that go into preventing chronic diseases such as obesity and diabetes, but how can we maybe do that in another way? So I find it interesting, and I thought maybe you would too. So before I get into that, a brief intro. My name is Rebecca Becky Montrone. I am a holistic healthcare practitioner with a degree in holistic nutrition. My company is Wondrous Roots, and we are located at the top floor of the Miller Forge building in Keene, New Hampshire. So I see clients in private consultation for all kinds of health issues. Nothing is off limits to me. So it could be anything from psychiatric problems to cancer and everything in between, simple wellness or neurodegenerative illnesses such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. I like to take it all on. It's not because I know everything, but things I don't know. As you all well know, while you're here with me, I try to find out more and look outside the box and not be kept back by information that isn't being presented in the mainstream. When I did, for instance, the series on outsmarting Alzheimer's, we looked at things that were studies about things that made a big difference in prevention that go back decades, and yet your doctor doesn't know anything about them. And so, we want to make sure that we're doing things, we're taking our tips maybe from the mainstream media and from mainstream physician, what's going on and what's being prescribed, but let's see what's behind that and what we can learn to do things better for ourselves before 10 years go by before this kind of thing is revealed, studies or whatnot. So that's where I'm coming from today. Anyway, yes, I do see clients in private consultation. We do it in here in Keene, locally or this way, distance. So distance is no problem. And you can reach me at 603-439-2603 or from either of my websites, shopwondrousroots.com or wondrousroots.org, the contact us. That also comes to my private email. Or if you have my email, just email me. That information too is on my website. So I think that's kind of the coverage. We're open 9:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. And our shop is open to the general public. So you don't have to be a client to ask me advice. You can call me, and if I can give you quick advice, I will. If you pop in and I can give you quick advice, I will. If you want to make an appointment, we can do that, but you don't have to be an appointment. Have an appointment to get any advice from me. Let's put it that way. And what else can I say regarding that? Oh yeah, so I'm also an herbalist. So I have a full herbal armamentum formulary where I have tons of formulas that I've created myself and single herbs that we extract ourselves. here at Wondrous Roots. And also we have a full skincare line that are my formulas. Just added 2 new formulas that are on the website now. I haven't announced them formally in an email, but our Wondrous Neurovive for neuropathy and our Wondrous Circuvive for circulation issues. They're topical formulas. And you can find those on the website. And I will send out an email later this weekend about that with a little bit of a blog on each one, how they work and blah, blah, blah. So again, I think that's it. So let's dig in. I'm going to open up my page and then I'll share my screen with you. Excuse me. I haven't talked to like anybody all morning except for a hello to my husband. And like jamming on this. Okay, so share, we've shared, you've got that. And if you go to learn, I added today the diabetes metabolic syndrome page because I wanted to introduce this topic. But of course, there's a lot more that will come onto that page eventually. I think that's a good view. If there's something we need to blow up to view better, I will do that. Let me get my chat here and my my participants, put you all where I can see you. Again, if you want to participate, please do. You can type into the chat, you can type into the Q&A, or you can raise your hand and I'll call on you and you can speak and we'll all hear you. Okay. Just trying to move things around here so I can keep an eye on you and make sure you're not passing notes or chewing gum, doing stuff like that. It's not allowed. Okay, so GLP-1. So we hear about this stuff, right? And you're like, yeah, I hear about GLP-1, but I don't know what that is, or and nobody really, in a 60-second commercial explains that to you. So let's dive into the science there and get a kind of a better idea of what's going on and why these things are being used. So again, I say today, all the rage when it comes to diabetes and obesity problems are the GLP-1 receptor agonists, which means an agonist, right, it doesn't sound good, but it's an agonist is something that makes something that precurses something so that it works better, right? It sets it off. It's a catalyst, an agonist. So antagonizer is the opposite of an agonist. So anyway, so you have these GLP receptors, agonists such as Ozempic and Wegovy, and there's others, but those are the ones that we hear of the most, I think. These drugs are currently being promoted and advertised heavily. What isn't being shouted so loudly from the rooftops is there are many concerning side effects, potential long-term negative health impacts. So let's dig a little bit deeper into understanding GLP-1, its influence on health, and how we can naturally increase its activity without succumbing to potentially dangerous medications. So here we go. Let me just, so GLP-1 is glucagon-like peptide 1. It's an incretin hormone primarily produced by the intestinal L cells in response to food intake. It plays several key roles in metabolic regulation. 1, insulin secretion. So it enhances insulin release from the pancreas when blood glucose levels rise. So that's kind of like the first step. You eat something, all food in some, nearly virtually all food in some respects raises your blood sugar level, like fat, pure fat wouldn't, right? But usually fat is eaten with stuff that does. So anyway, things that can raise your blood sugar, and your pancreas are instructed to make insulin from the beta cells so that it can handle the glucose in your blood, because if it doesn't, you're going to have too much glucose in your blood. And eventually, like if you did nothing about that, you would absolutely die. So you have to be able to deal with that. So insulin, number 1, has to be produced. Now, if you want to understand that just a little bit better, like when insulin isn't produced, from the islets of Langerhans, the beta cells in type 1 diabetes. That's why insulin is needed instantly, because there's no capacity to make insulin in the first place. That's not what happens with type 2 diabetes. It's not the islets of Langerhans go and the beta cells are gone. It's that we develop insulin resistance. And so we'll get into that. But anyway, we're at the first step. You've eaten something, and the blood glucose level rises. Your pancreas need to make insulin. Glucagon suppression. So it helps reduce the creation of glucagon, a hormone that increases blood sugar levels. So here's the converse thing, right? So you have, you have insulin, which is made, and then it keeps your blood sugar but glucagon is also made in the pancreas, and this helps glucagon. If glucagon comes in, you make less insulin, so it suppresses glucagon. So you've got the two factors there. You're making more insulin and you're suppressing glucagon so that you're making more insulin, and that isn't being interrupted. Okay. Gastric emptying. So it slows the rate at which the stomach empties, contributing to a more gradual rise in blood glucose. Okay, so if you eat your meal, especially one that's, let's say you've eaten a meal that's going to raise your blood sugar, or you just ate a piece of pie or whatever, right? Piece of cake or something like that is a real thing. Okay, so your insulin comes in really quickly, or let's not even go with a piece of pie or something sweet. Let's just say you eat a meal, and your meal is balanced with, it's got carbs and fats and protein or whatever, but it's your basic meal, and you eat that. Okay, so now that's in your stomach. And the rate of gastric emptying depends on how soon the food you ate in your stomach comes out as stool, right? It goes through the whole process, and then it comes out and you have a bowel movement. So one of the ways these drugs work, or what GLP does, right, is it helps slow the rate of gastric emptying. So people who have too fast gastric emptying, you would see, oh my goodness, they eat a raw salad, and within hours later they see undigested, like lettuce or whatever, in the toilet bowl. That's like they're just, everything's moving in so fast, it's really hard to absorb your nutrients properly when things go through too fast. Okay, so maybe that's a good place to back up and explain. Okay, so the stomach, you start chewing, you're making amylase, and that's saliva, breaks down carbohydrates. You're starting to make that. It's getting your gastric juices, just as you chew, it's getting your the acid in your stomach primed so that it can digest the protein parts of your food. And then it goes to the stomach. In the stomach, you need to have plenty of acid, by the way, because now that food, the protein needs to be digested at acidic levels, such as a 1 or 2 on the pH scale. The rest of it, once that's done, it creates a substance called chyme, and the pyloric sphincter opens. That's like the gateway between the stomach and the small intestine, the first part of the small intestine, which is called the duodenum. So now you have this partially digested food mass goes into the small intestine, where the pancreatic enzymes then, kind of like a big shower of pancreatic juices, turn the pH alkaline, 7+ something. And that's alkaline pH is needed to digest carbohydrates and other complete the digestion process. It's in the first part of the intestine, the duodenum, where the bulk of our nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream. And so you have like a skinnier intestine there. It's not nearly as long, like the colon, the second part of the second intestines, right? The colon is much longer, but it's fat and fatter, or maybe it's opposite. Don't quiz me on that. I have to, but anyway, the small intestine is skinnier. And I think it's shorter, but I could be wrong. I'll have to look at it. Anyway, but what's really good about the small intestine being shorter is that the sides, you have this peristalsis. So you know the feeling you get when you need to move your bowels? That's called peristalsis. So this peristalsis is going along the whole track. You just don't feel it like you do when it gets into the sigmoid colon and you really need to go. So this is happening, and it's scrubbing the food, and it's pulling the nutrients out into the bloodstream, which is like right alongside the intestine, right? So all of those vitamins and stuff, they're coming out, and they're coming out into your bloodstream, and they're fueling your body. So if you have if your digestion is too fast, well, then it's gonna like just fly through there, and you're not gonna have time for all of this stuff to go on and for you to absorb your nutrients. So having a slower gastric emptying process, as long as it's not too slow, because too slow means you can't move your bowels and you are chronically constipated. So you got to have that happy medium. So anyway, okay, so enough on that. All right. So anyway, when you have a slower emptying, so you have your stomach is emptying its contents into the small intestine, the duodenum, more slowly. And so it's not all of a sudden in there with all of the glucose raising foods that you had, whether it was your pasta or your bread or your cookie or whatever. It's not getting into the bloodstream as fast. So it slows it down, so you have a slower burn of that. And so it's not like all of a sudden a big whoo on your blood sugar level. Okay. And then because your stomach empties less quickly, you feel fuller for longer. So you don't feel like eating again in just a couple of hours. So anyway, these functions make the GLP-1 an important target for treatments aimed at managing type 2 diabetes and obesity. So again, it is a glucagon-like peptide. That's officially what it is. It's not an amino acid. It's not a vitamin. It's not an enzyme. It is a peptide. Okay, now, how do the GLP-1 receptor agonist medication, how do they work, right? Okay, GLP-1 receptor agonist drugs are designed to mimic the actions of the naturally occurring incretin hormone, GLP-1. Okay, and so we can also call this a hormone, a peptide hormone. Here's the breakdown of how they work. Mimicking natural GLP-1, these drugs also bind to the GLP receptors, just as endogenous GLP-1 would. So endogenous means we make it ourselves. Exogenous means we take it from the outside. So we have like endogenous cannabinoids. We make cannabinoids. We use CBD or THC or some sort of cannabis thing to make cannabinoids, to take in cannabinoids from the outside. We make vitamin D endogenously. We make it, but we also take it exogenously in. Okay. All right. Enhancing insulin secretion. They stimulate pancreatic beta cells to secrete insulin in a glucose-dependent manner. This means that insulin is released more effectively when blood glucose levels are high. And then suppressing glucagon release. So doing the same things I just talked about, but the drugs are doing that for you, is what it's basically saying. So the receptor agonists, so those would be the drugs, are engineered to be resistant to degradation by the enzyme DDP4, dipeptidyl peptidase 4, giving them a longer duration of action compared to natural GLP-1. So think of it that way, like, all right, your natural GLP-1 isn't as long acting. So this would be like a long acting GLP-1 activity in your body if you use the drugs. But these are potential side effects, and it's really fun when you kind of try to research this. You can tell how much the web is influenced by the drug companies and what the standard answers are supposed to be. You know, they're rare, or Most of them go away and after the beginning, but I kind of left those warnings off. But these are the potential side effects. So gastrointestinal disturbances, again, these do wane oftentimes as the body adjusts, and then that's fair. But nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sometimes constipation are very common, especially when starting therapy. As your body adjusts, that you can definitely get used to that. But here we have some that are more serious here, pancreatitis risk. There have been reports of acute pancreatitis in patients using these drugs, so patients are advised to watch for symptoms like severe abdominal pain. And acute pancreatitis is life-threatening. It can be life-threatening. Some people have chronic pancreatitis, which over time leads to, can lead to the dusty road to death. But acute pancreatitis, as can be seen in like really strong alcohol abuse. So alcohol abuse chronic over a long period of time, or chronic alcohol abuse even in, way too much alcohol at one time. I have a guy who came to see me. I just saw him the other day, and he first came to see me many years ago. And I've talked about him before, but he was a bad alcoholic. He had a bad alcoholism problem. And he had an attack of acute pancreatitis. And what happened was it caused his pancreas to turn inside out. And the digestive enzymes spilled out all into his abdominal cavity and started to digest his organs. Oh, horrors. Oh, bad. They had to cut him open, and they had to do this many times, and they finally ended up putting a zipper in his abdomen so they could keep operating without cutting him open. But that's like that's like if you want to warn somebody off drinking too much, or if you want to warn somebody off pancreatitis or having a pancreatitis risk, you don't want acute pancreatitis. I'm sure his situation was very extreme from the many years of very severe alcohol abuse. So I don't want to overblow it, but you don't want pancreatitis. And if you do, so that they would tell you if you're taking these GLP-1 agonist, receptor agonists, to watch for that. Thyroid C cell tumors. Some GLP-1 receptor agonists carry a boxed warning regarding an increased risk of thyroid C cell tumors based on animal studies. This risk leads to caution in patients with a personal history or family history of medullary thyroid carcinoma or multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Well, I mean, right there, you seriously don't want to be negatively impacting your thyroid with anything and certainly not cancer. Again, I don't want to get out there and say, oh my gosh, everybody who takes these things is going to end up with thyroid problems. That's not, but that's something they see as a possible problem. Other considerations. There may also be concerns regarding the effects on kidney function, in some cases, gallbladder disease. And so very interesting, one day I should address the connection between the gallbladder and the thyroid. The gallbladder and the thyroid are intimately connected. Think about that. If you're out there, if you're listening to this video and you've got a thyroid problem, but you also have gallbladder issues, think about it because they're connected. They can be the thyroid dysfunction affects the gallbladder, and gallbladder dysfunction affects the thyroid, so hormone function. So that's another really cool subject for another day. There also may be concerns regarding effects of gallbladder disease. Diabetic retinopathy. So diabetic retinopathy, this is the damage to the retina that comes with diabetes. Why? Because there's so much glucose coursing through the blood veins and getting into the arteries and the small vessels in the eyes surrounding the retina and all of that area. And it produces a process called glycation. Glycation is the binding of sugar to protein. Think of a roasted turkey or chicken in your oven, and how the skin gets nice and crispy and sweet and yummy and sticky. That's glycation. You don't want that happening in your blood vessels. And that's what happens to diabetics that can actually make them go blind. if it's not prevented. So in clinical trials, especially with semaglutide, there have been reports of an increased incidence of diabetic retinopathy complications. These complications can include, and semaglutide, I believe, is Ozempic, Ozempic, semaglutide. I think they are the same. Yes, that's right. Just fact checking myself. There have been reports of an increased incidence of diabetic retinopathy complications. These complications can include worsening of pre-existing retinal issues, potentially leading to visual disturbances. The prevailing view is that rapid improvement in blood glucose control rather than a direct toxic effect on the eyes may trigger these changes. And that's interesting. It's almost like it corrected it too quickly. I don't know. But what you do to prevent diabetic retinopathy is you use benfotiamine, which is a fat-soluble form of vitamin B1, and which prevents the binding of glucose to protein. We've talked about that before. And since I'm starting my diabetes page here, I know I'll go into that again. I've never done a whole program on that. But we'll definitely talk about that. And then gastroparesis, paralysis, gastro. So your gastrointestinal system, they're talking about like the paralysis or, you know, not absolutely like it doesn't move at all, but you can have wide variations in the severity of gastroparesis. And gastroparesis can be really bad, and it can be very hard to fix. Sometimes not fixable, really. So impaired intestinal motility, I say constipation that won't go away, but gastroparesis is, motility issues. They're not just hard stool. It's not just like you get the urge to go, but then your stool is hard. For that, we can use things that help naturally, like magnesium, cheap, inexpensive magnesium, very poorly absorbed magnesium oxide, which, because it doesn't get into the cells of the body and really do you any good in any other way, it stays into your colon, and it attracts water from your body in there and softens the stool. It's a great way to soften the stool if that's what you need to do. But gastroparesis now involves you don't have the peristalsis activity going on like you should. And again, the peristalsis activity begins right at the beginning of your digestion. So you're doing that not just to get the urge to go, but it's what's moving. It's what's moving your food through the whole alimentary canal. And so you don't want to mess with that. You just really don't. One of the things that peristalsis does at night that we don't even realize is going on is that it's cleaning the small intestine. So it's like at night, you're not eating, your body is really smart. Thankfully, thanks to the smart creator who engineered it and created it, is really smart. And it takes that time when you're not eating and you're resting to move this peristalsis action to just keep moving and cleaning any residue, anything that's along the intestinal wall, and just like move that, get it nice and clean, get it ready and cleaned out for the eating that you're going to do in the next day. So all this peristalsis is going to be, with gastroparesis, is going to be slowed down. It's not just the fact that you don't get the urge to go and now you need an enema to use the bathroom. Anyway, people, like, sometimes they come in, they're in for a consult and they're like, I hate to talk about this, too much information. I'm like, no, you have to talk about poop. If you're talking about health, poop is a root that is very important. So all of that, we have to talk about it. So maybe I can help my GLP-1 incretin hormone peptide that I make myself. Maybe I can do that another way. Now, let me just interject there. We don't want to say, because this is what a lot of people are doing with these drugs. They're like, I can't be bothered. I mean, let's talk truthfully. A lot of it is, I can't be bothered to start exercising. I can't be bothered to eat a better diet. I don't want to wait, and I don't want to take the time, and I don't want to be patient, and I don't care. I just want to lose weight and not have to change anything. So no, that doesn't pass when it comes to health. That's not it. But what about the person, who's doing those things and eating a healthy lifestyle, making sure they're getting activity? And I meet people like this all the time and still having trouble losing weight. What are some things going on in the body that can be triggered, right, if you will, to make it so that we have a better time losing weight in response to the things that we're doing? And also not just losing weight, but of course, these were designed for metabolic processes, glucose control, insulin, and all of that in the first place. So to help maybe prevent my blood sugar from getting out of control. So again, eating in proper proportions, watching your appetite, eating the right combinations of foods, getting rid of processed foods. One of the big things that we've got going on with people eating poorly and then using drugs to try to offset the things that come with eating poorly is you've got processed food. Many people today rely on processed foods, which are deadly. They are sure triggers for obesity. They are sure triggers for diabetes, metabolic syndrome, diabetes type 2. And that high blood sugar, you're teeter-tottering, your doctor says, oh, your HbA1c is up around 5.7. Let's keep an eye on that. Your fasting blood sugar is like up over 100 the last time we did your labs. And you're pre-diabetic. Now you're slipping in, you're pre-diabetic. Now you're diabetic type 2. No, we don't want to do that. But first, diet and lifestyle are the first front runners. And nothing's going to be a drug or even a natural substance that will do that for you. So these are the things now we tag on. So I'm talking more to the person with stubborn weight who is working with a proper lifestyle and diet. And can it help somebody who's not doing that if you do these things? Yes, but I will tell you, most people who are going to invest in a supplement, well, I guess I'm not, I guess that's not true, because people will do the same thing with supplements sometimes that they will do with drugs. So forget I said that. Let's back up. So anyway, that's the healthful place to use these things, I would say. And that's my role as a nutritionist, as a holistic health practitioner, to phrase it that way. This is what we do to help on top of those things, to add to the things we're doing with a proper lifestyle and diet. So what is akkermansia? So I'm going to take you to the page there. It's a little bit more colorful. Akkermansia, most notably represented by, this is a probiotic, actually. It's a microbe. Most notably represented by the species Akkermansia muciniphila. Okay, muciniphila. Keep that word mucin in your mind, because that's how it works. Is a type of beneficial gut bacterium that plays a key role in maintaining the health of the intestinal lining. It belongs to the phylum Verrucomicrobia, a lesser known group compared to the dominant gut microbes like Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes. Function, Akkermansia muciniphila specializes in breaking down mucin. Okay, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. The glycoprotein component of the mucus layer lining the gut. This degradation process is not destructive. Rather, it stimulates mucus production and helps maintain the integrity of the gut barrier. So it's a positive thing. Origins and discovery. Excuse me. Our Akkermansia muciniphila was first isolated in the early 2000s. Its discovery highlighted the complex interplay between the human host in its microbiota, especially concerning gut barrier function and metabolism. That's what we're looking at now. The habitat, the bacterium is naturally found in the GI tracts of humans and other animals. It thrives in the mucus layer, which is used as its primary food source. Okay, the ecological role, oh, there we go. The ecological role and health implications, gut health. By degrading mucin, Akkermansia contributes to the continuous renewal of the mucus layer, which is essential for protecting the intestinal lining from pathogens and toxins. So it would be helpful there, just, because we have so many things that are related to leaky gut, dysbiosis, the gut lining not being where it should be and maintained in the proper physiological, what do I want to say? Well, the way it is just supposed to be, right? So it could be not have enough mucus, or it could have tight junctions that are too tight not tight enough, and things like that that disturb the gut lining. Collagen deficit can help impair the gut lining. So there's different things, but you want it to be a certain way, the certain normal way, we'll put it that way. And so it helps with that. So protects the intestinal lining from pathogens and toxins. Metabolic benefits, higher levels of Akkermansia have been associated with improved metabolic profiles. So research suggests that it may regulate body weight, reduce inflammation, and improve insulin sensitivity. Conversely, reduced levels of this bacterium have been linked to conditions such as obesity, type 2 diabetes, and other metabolic disorders. Probiotic potential due to its beneficial roles. Akkermansia is being explored as a potential next generation probiotic. So this is kind of like a new mover and shaker on the street of, in the world of probiotics. Okay, studies are investigating whether boosting its levels through dietary interventions or supplements could help manage or prevent metabolic diseases. So anyway, the abundance of Akkermansia in the gut can be influenced by dietary factors. Diets rich in fiber and certain prebiotics may help support its growth. Ongoing research as our understanding of the gut microbiome deepens. Akkermansia has garnered significant interest for its potential therapeutic applications. Researchers are examining how modulating this bacterium's levels could lead to new strategies for improving gut health and managing metabolic conditions. In summary, Akkermansia is an important gut microbe that plays a dual role in both maintaining, excuse me one second, in both maintaining the protective mucus barrier of the intestine and supporting overall metabolic health. Its unique ability to feed on mucin positions it as a key player in the dynamic ecosystem of the gut. And ongoing research, blah, 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 blue. Okay. And here you have a study here that kind of leads to that. Our Akkermansia muciniphila secretes a glucagon-like peptide 1, inducing protein that improves glucose homeostasis and ameliorates metabolic disease in mice. So for all of those mice who don't want to, well, anyway, I won't say that. All right. So we see here, blah, 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 blah. I just want to look at this really more. Okay. Secretion. I'm just trying to see if it has anything to do. Yeah, I think that this might actually have an effect on, I have to look, but remember they told you how the drugs can actually prolong the effect of GLP-1, whereas natural GLP-1, yeah, it doesn't. Okay. I'm wondering if that, I have to read all the gobbledygook in there, the science speak. See, I didn't see the same buzz chemical, but I'll have to see. Anyway, enough on that. Now, you can find, unless anyone think, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy me some Akkermansia. And it'll be just like taking, it's going to be great. I'm going to take it. It's going to be just like taking Ozempic or Wegovy and blah, 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 blah. I kind of like this guy, this chiropractor is sort of like, let's step back a little bit and, let's not go nuts on this Akkermansia. He calls it Ackermania, I think. Anyway, so let's just look at that. So I like to look at another viewpoint and just see what he says. And he doesn't deny the things that we've just talked about, but he says, this is Ackermania. So he talks about what it is. He says, however, since then, some substantial human health claims have come out about it since its discovery, thanks largely to a company called Pendulum Therapeutics, and produces and markets it as a supplement. So blah, 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 tells what it did. We just went through that. It does this, a small and large intestine. Okay, which is like, because lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, which people have been using for similar things, but their concentrations are more in the colon, the large intestine then. So this, the thing about Akkermansia is that it's equally in both intestines. It acts as a mucin degrading cross feeder, converts mucin, that gooey substance, into metabolites called short chain fatty acids. Okay, butyrate. Now I'm going to talk about butyrate in a minute with regard to all of this. And I talked about butyrate. I have a whole page on it. I've done a whole webinar on it. And I've talked about butyrate for stimulating GLP-1. So we'll go into that a little bit. But this is where Akkermansia and butyrate indirectly sort of, they work. Okay, so it acts as the mucin degrading cross feeder. So what is butyrate first? Okay, butyrate is a short chain fatty acid. We make it in our intestines from eating foods high in fiber. It's also rich in like butter. It is the component in vomit that makes it smell like vomit. But anyway, I digress. Short chain fatty acids are really helpful, and go to my butyrate page to learn more about that. Butyrate has many benefits, but this GLP-1 system is one of them. So anyway, this is what happens. It acts as a mucin degrading cross feeder. This means it converts mucin into metabolites, byproducts called short chain fatty acids, butyrate, that support the growth of other beneficial bacteria. So if you were to take like an Akkermansia supplement and populate your intestines with this bacterium, then you would be helping yourself also make more butyrate. Okay. In animal models, Akkermansia, now I can't, Akkermansia appears, Mansia, he misspelled it there. So other people do that too. Akkermansia appears to stimulate the secretion of a hormone known GLP-1. In humans, it plays the important role of helping us feel full and may aid in weight management. So the animal data suggests the possibility that Akkermansia could help people lose weight. In other words, it's good, it supports the gut bacterium, it's a good idea. He says, but does this mean you should make Akkermansia your first probiotic choice? Not so fast. So I like this. I like this, some balance here. First, most Akkermansia studies have been concluded on animals or in vitro Petri dish laboratory studies, making it difficult to apply the findings to humans directly. Second, there's a certain amount of novelty based around next generation therapeutics like Akkermansia. Novelty bias is a phenomenon in science that occurs when researchers unintentionally exaggerate the positive things about a treatment when it's new. So like we can see that, right? So it's like, oh, wow, this new probiotic is just better than all the other probiotics for whatever reason or something. And everybody's like, I've got to get Akkermansia. And honestly, there's no harm in trying it, right? So it's not like you get on a fad or you jump on the wagon with something like that and to your harm. So, anyway, it's not a big deal, but there's that kind of thing where you can kind of like, yeah, okay, that goes along with my philosophy. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other gold. So I think about that a lot of times when these new and up and coming, I've talked about that with myself. Vitamin C kind of got like buried under glutathione and things like that, and palmitoylethanolamide in my mind, right? You got your stellar things that are amazing, your old friends, and you kind of forget about them. They kind of become like, you take them for granted, right? So we don't want to do that. We don't want to let Akkermansia like steal all the spotlight when it comes to these probiotics. But anyway, low levels of claim 1. He's going to try to bust apart these claims. Low levels of Akkermansia are associated with poor health. Well, it's true that lower levels of Akkermansia have been associated with, but not found to cause, some health conditions. This is only half the picture. In other conditions, Akkermansia levels can be high. Check out this table to see what conditions fall into which camp. So diet-induced obesity, typically lower. Inflammatory bowel disease, such as ulcerative colitis, typically lower. Type 2 diabetes, typically lower, but irritable bowel syndrome, typically higher. Parkinson's disease, typically higher. Multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune condition, typically higher. And you're going to be able to find studies here. So that might be fun for you to do if you want to really dig deeper. I have not explored all of those yet, but I will. I really want to understand that. I'd love to see this. Differences in composition of gut microbiota between patients with Parkinson's disease and healthy controls. Yeah. Okay. So that's very interesting with regard to Parkinson's. All right. So I won't take your time to do my homework. Whoops. Whoops. Oh, gosh. There we go. I've lost my place. Sorry, you guys. Okay, there we are. It's worth noting that these relationships are associations only. This means that we cannot be sure or say with any certainty that low Akkermansia levels cause inflammatory bowel disease or high Akkermansia causes irritable bowel syndrome. And even if there is a causal relationship, it could be reverse causation. In other words, having intestinal inflammation and IBD results in Akkermansia levels falling rather than lower Akkermansia levels causing IBD. Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. So in other words, it's not like you took too much supplemental Akkermansia and now you have Parkinson's disease, right? Or now you have multiple sclerosis. No, they're looking at like what does the microbiota look like if you examine people with these conditions and then the levels of those different things. So anyway, key takeaway, the potential links between Akkermansia and various diseases are interesting, but too early to draw conclusions. We don't know if low Akkermansia levels actually cause illness or not. Claim 2, it's good for weight loss. There's been a big buzz about Akkermansia and weight loss, but only one small randomized controlled trial has addressed it. In the trial, 32 people with obesity, overweight, and insulin resistance took a placebo or 10 billion CFU of live or pasteurized Akkermansia each day. They were not required to make any specific dietary or lifestyle changes. After 3 months, various aspects of metabolic health, including significant weight loss, improved in those who took Akkermansia. More on this below. On average, body weight decreased by 5 pounds more in the Akkermansia group than in the placebo group, and participants given Akkermansia lost on average 3 pounds of fat mass and approximately 1 inch of hip circumference. How well does this compare with more widely studied probiotics, like compared to the ones like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria? Also helped with weight loss. However, the average weight loss with these probiotics was at least 1.3 pounds per person over study time was less, not at least, was less, okay, than the 5 pounds at 1.3 pounds per person over the time. So this would suggest that Akkermansia could be the best probiotic we have for managing weight, but do keep in mind that this is comparing just one small study with a much larger set of studies involving traditional probiotics. Furthermore, loss of 5 pounds in 3 months is pretty minimal, right? But if you were able to tag on to weight loss of greater by doing other things and then get a boost, kind of using it as part of your toolkit for weight loss, that could be, 5 additional pounds, could be worth it. Improves supplementing with archimandria. This is another claim. 2 randomized control studies have suggested that supplements may help people maintain healthy blood sugar levels and manage or reduce the risk of metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes. We've been talking about insulin sensitivity. Again, the same one involving 32 patients showed a 30% decrease in fasting levels of insulin. I think that's pretty important. Improved total cholesterol, reductions in markers of liver dysfunction and inflammation with no changes to the overall intestinal microbiota composition. In the second study, people already receiving metformin took either the 3-strain probiotic, including that, or a placebo, and the 5-strain probiotic with Akkermansia, and it decreased post-meal glucose by 15 milligrams per deciliter on average, while the 3-strain group saw an 11 milligram decrease and hemoglobin levels. Anyway, some influence there. Oral probiotics, other probiotics and blood sugar. You can always look further. We're getting up on time here. Akkermansia helps heal a leaky gut. You can think, because of that whole mucus layer we were talking about, you can think of a gut wall being like a wooden picket fence. If a few of those boards start coming loose, the fence stops acting as a proper barrier to outsiders. Similarly, a damaged or leaky gut barrier, also known as intestinal permeability, can allow toxins, bacteria, food particles from the gut into the bloodstream. Right. That's how you've developed food sensitivities, because you've had this leaky gut and you've got some large molecules of eggs or wheat or whatever, they get it in there, and your immune system says, oh, you guys are foreigners and we need to develop some antibodies against you, so to speak. Some resistance, some opposition to you, and now you become sensitive to those foods. So I kind of like the fence idea, fence wall. They can cause unusual immune responses that promote inflammation. Just one randomized clinical trial has addressed Akkermansia's effect on gut barrier functions in humans. It's the same study we already examined. Study looked at intestinal barrier dysfunction, blah, 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 blah. Study looked at intestinal measuring plasma liposaccharides. Liposaccharides, which are a marker for gut leakiness. Basically, higher LPS suggests gut leakiness, and lower LPS indicates tighter intestinal junctional walls. After participants took Akkermansia for 3 months, the researchers found they had lower serum LPS. This suggests that the gut wall had become less leaky, analogous to those fence boards fitting together more tightly. So there's some activity there. It makes sense if it's degrading the mucin like it does and keeping the thing like that, the intestinal wall. Anyway, you can see there. So I did not want to come off as saying I was jumping on the bandwagon of, oh my goodness, everybody just start taking Akkermansia. So take it all for what it's worth. So anyway, butyrate and GLP-1. I have an entire page dedicated to butyrate, so I won't belabor the introduction here, but please go here. So there you see that. I did a webinar on that. There's a lot of information there. We'll go back. Butyrate, again, a short-chain fatty acid produced by the fermentation of dietary fibers by gut bacteria, plays an important role in stimulating the release of GLP-1 from intestinal L cells. Here's how the interaction works. Butyrate activates G protein coupled receptors, blah, 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 on L cells. This receptor engagement triggers intracellular signaling pathways that promote the secretion of GLP-1, an incretin hormone that helps regulate insulin release and blood glucose levels. By enhancing GLP-1 release, butyrate indirectly supports improved glycemic control, increased insulin sensitivity, and appetite regulation. These effects contribute to better overall metabolic health and may help mitigate conditions like type 2 diabetes. In addition to promoting GLP-1 secretion, butyrate serves as a key energy source for colonocytes, the cells lining the colon, and it exhibits anti-inflammatory properties. Its action helps maintain a healthy gut environment, further supporting the proper functioning of the enteroendocrine system. And overall, the interaction between butyrate and GLP-1 illustrates a vital link between dietary fiber, the gut microbiota, and metabolic regulation, highlighting how naturally produced metabolites can have far-reaching effects on human health. And a lot of us are taking butyrate, sodium butyrate, as a daily supplement. And you could always add something like akkermansia if you wanted to. So now, beyond akkermansia and butyrate, are there any other things? Several natural approaches and compounds are being explored for their ability to enhance GLP-1 secretion and improve metabolic health. So dietary fiber and prebiotics, they are both precursors to akkermansia and butyrate. Oral prebiotics, probiotics, and fermented foods. Beyond akkermansia, strains of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, as we were looking at in that previous paper, commonly found in fermented foods such as yogurt, kefir, and sauerkraut, can help maintain a healthy gut environment that favors GLP-1 release. Plant-derived compounds. Several bioactive compounds found in plants have been investigated for their potential to modulate GLP-1. Berberine, that's been a buzzword supplement for type 2 diabetes for quite some time now. Relatively new, but it's been a few years. The alkaloids found in plants like golden seal and barberry, which have been shown to influence the gut microbiota and may enhance GLP-1 secretion by that dynamic. Curcumin, old friend, the active ingredient in turmeric associated with improved insulin sensitivity and anti-inflammatory effects, might play a role in GLP-1 modulation. And polyphenols, such as compounds found in such as green tea, we talked about last week, cocoa and berries, have been suggested to affect gut hormone levels, including GLP-1, although more research is needed to clarify these effects, but it makes a lot of sense. That's the fun. I really have fun looking at medications and seeing how they work. Especially I do that all the time when it comes to working with people with different cancers. How do the medications work, and what are the pathways that we can work on naturally to impact change? In fact, I did that just this week, working with a new client who has mantle cell lymphoma, which is a form of lymphoma that's considered more aggressive than others. And one of the things that I've learned recently with regard to the blood cancers is the CAT pathways, the KAT pathways, and the CAT-STAT pathways, and CAT3, CAT2, and CAT3. But CAT3 very much being influenced, and we have a lot of drugs for CAT3 tyrosine inhibition, but they all come with very disturbing side effects. So what are some of the things we do to inhibit that path, the CAT3 pathway? Are some natural things that are involved are things like green tea, quercetin, resveratrol. I'm thinking of another one, Chinese skullcap. So I have made and just recently actually took the time to put up on my website a CAT3. It's JAK3, not CAT3. Excuse me, totally wrong. JAK3, JAK stands for something much longer, but anyway, not CAT, but JAK. And JAK3 STAT pathways. And so you look at that, you investigate, like, what are these chemotherapeutic drugs doing that have all these side effects, and we want to avoid them, but what are they doing? What pathways are they influencing? And then you go in and you find the natural things that do that. This is what makes it so exciting. This is why we have so much more control than we think we do. And we can get good results. We can do phenomenal things when you speak of therapies and therapeutic approaches that really do affect things like cancer or whatever, or diabetes, like we're talking about here, or obesity. Finding out how things work, what are the pathways, and what are the things, how that all happens. So I find it all completely exciting. It really is so encouraging and so wonderful to think that we have the means to be healthy. If we're willing to do it. And again, not overcoming something that we've created by really poor lifestyle habits, eating a very poor diet, not getting adequate sleep, not getting adequate exercise, those kinds of things. But for those people who are health-minded, right, like if you're going to start taking a butyrate supplement but you eat a horrible diet full of processed foods and all kinds of things like that, and you don't take care of yourself in other ways, from a lifestyle standpoints, how much is a supplement going to help you? But again, for those who are on the path to health, these are little helps, things you can put in there, right, to make a difference, and maybe in some cases make a significant difference. Maybe your problem really is more about GLP-1 when it comes to your obesity problems than it is your mitochondria. Okay, so which supplements do I go for most in my picture? What is the approach that's going to, again, I like the slap it silly approach. Go for the mitochondria using your low dose niacinamide 3 times a day, but go for the GLP-1, maybe using butyrate, maybe using acromansia, that kind of thing. So anyway, I hope you have found this, what do I want to say? Interesting. I find it super interesting, super exciting. If not anything else, just a little bit of clarification about everything that's on the TV, the ads we're seeing, the things people are talking about, the voices of people in medicine out there, medical resource pundits on various programs and things, trying kind of making people think, wow, maybe Ozempic and Wegovy are good for everybody. I mean, maybe we just need to lower the prices because obesity is really a big problem in this country and we just got to get on top of it. Not so fast, not so fast. Let's take the long way. Let's take the way that actually leads to health. And those things are not going to solve all of your health problems. So anyway, it's kind of a roundabout way of wrapping it up. But I would like to say again, thank you. Thanks so much, Cindy. Thanks everybody for being here. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We are on February 22nd here. It is, the days are getting longer. It's nice and cold still. So we're getting our groundhog predicted 6 more weeks of winter, but that doesn't bother me. The sun's shining and it's really pleasant. So enjoy your weekend. And I'll be back next week. Not sure what I'll be talking about, but something interesting, I'm sure. Take care. Be well.